You know what sound that is, folks. You bet it's another Noon Whistle, and I'm coming to you from the Kalahari in Wisconsin Dells, so let's see how this goes. My name's Chris Trottier.
I'm John Anslow, and Chris, thanks for coming out of the water slide and being with us today.
I did a couple of cannonballs this morning, so that was pretty good.
Good. We're here again with Richard VanScotter, 1957 Elkhorn alumni, Hall of Famer, teacher, professor, I could go author, on and on and on. I'm sure I've missed a few, Richard, but hey, really nice to have you again. Thanks for taking time.
Thank you. Good to see you guys again.
Yeah, always good to see you.
Historian, don't you think, John?
Absolutely, he is. And just a fun guy to talk to.
Put something up, John?
Yeah, does you get that picture? We wanted to talk briefly about this picture that hangs in our district office. And Richard saw it this year and was able to get some help from his big brother. And I think we've identified all the players. Is that correct, Rich?
Well, it's almost correct. My big brother just confirmed what I said. So I remember these guys. Yeah.
Hey, I was trying to give him some credit.
Brother Bob, and I want to honor him because he passed away recently. He's not in that picture. He was on the football team. But notice that on the bottom it says Southern State Conference champs, 44-45. The next year they also won the Southern State Conference in 45-46. And some of the same players are on the team. And you'll see in the front row there, Don Breidenbach, great athlete at Elkhorn High. Also was a coach at Delavan for a while and a minor league baseball player. Bill Morrissey in the Hall of Fame, as is Breidenbach. Ted Heuser in the middle there, holding the ball. And then Don Millard. Millard was a big man, 6'7" tall. He just died recently. Living down in Williams Bay. Some of you probably knew Don Millard. Bob Sorensen, whose father was the president of the school board and a physician in town. And then Jack Brilliantine, who was actually the award winner that year from his class. He was a catcher on the team and a football player as well. In the back row, I can't see some of the guys there, but Bob Christensen and Dick Godfrey. The coach was Don Disford. Disford was a teacher, and he served as principal for a while. And then Jim Campbell was the manager. Bob Connor, and then the last gentleman on the end is Japanese American boy whose name I could not remember. My brother Bob couldn't remember it either. But it's interesting because he was one of the kids that was in Elkhorn when his parents were in the internment camps during World War II. And Elkhorn had 3 Japanese American students in the school. And one of them, the young girl, 10th grade, Josephine Ike, lived in our family, the VanScotter house. Helped my mom take care of the boys. Us little kids were rascals. But I was at that time I was in kindergarten. So when I first became remembering what it was like to be a high school kid, which I really wanted to do. I just wanted to get to high school. I followed the sports teams, and I wanted to put on the purple and gold and get in the game. And eventually I did that about 10, 12 years later. But I was fascinated by the life of high school students and followed them around a lot and admired what they were doing. But that's
Richard, I think it's amazing that
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a list in front of me of the names you gave me, and I thought I was going to need the help, and you rattled right through that thing, and even history on each person like that is incredible. That's incredible. But we don't want to get.
I hope that memory is some indication of intelligence, but I'm not sure that's the case.
I could go along with that, but no, thank you for that. I remember
a lot of stuff is because growing up in Elkhorn was just a fascinating time. And it was so important to me, and the community there was they helped raise all us kids basically.
Which kind of is a great segue into one of your books, Thin Clads. Talks about Elkhorn, talks about track and baseball and some of that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Even got the water tower.
Yeah, Thin Clads. Yeah, a book that I wrote, published in 2010. And I dedicated it to Bill Ward, who was in class of 56, a year ahead of me. And I'd seen Bill. Bill lived in Pennsylvania. He was a college teacher out there. And I was doing some work at the Hershey School, some consulting work, the Milton Hershey School, and drove up to see Bill. And we had a wonderful conversation. His wife, who's an East Coast person from Virginia, was just astounded at the conversations that we had, and Bill had with his teammates, Bob Klitsky and Ralph Morello, class of '56. It's amazing how much you guys remember and talk about growing up in Elkhorn and how wonderful that community was for all of you. I've only been there one time to see people, but Bill, it shaped Bill's life. And that was 2003 that I saw him. And Bill was sick then. He had lost about 50, 60 pounds. Bill was a big kid. He was a football player, track man, and he had cancer, and he had lost 50, 60 pounds and went down from about 195 in high school, 5'10", 5'11", and he was very sick. A couple months later, Bill died, and I got thinking about that. And 2006 came along, and I thought, that's the 50th anniversary of the first year that Elkhorn High went to the state track meet. The book cover that we have here is a picture, and I can't see this very well. It's a picture of that relay team on there. We went to the state meet, and that was only the third year that Elkhorn had track and field. And if you look at the book cover, I'm looking at you. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's got a horse harness racing on the track, the Elkhorn horn from the water tower, and then our track team. And behind us is the old track we ran on. It was the horse track that they used to practice on. And as I said before, the Walworth County Fairgrounds Committee let us use that track. And I told you about the history of that before, but that's how we got started.
Well, wait, Richard, wait. Let's back up a little bit, because in your book, it speaks to a bunch of baseball guys that said, hey, you know what? We're pretty fast. We should try this track thing, right?
Well, we didn't initiate it. It came really from our coach.
Okay.
See, the football coach had gotten the track team started. And the track team, it was the first year Fred Suki was there at the school. And our track coach was a young guy named Gordon Hannum, right out of Carroll College. And he coached our track team. And all of a sudden, at the end of my sophomore year, we were told that, hey, you guys can go over and run the last track meet. It was against Palmyra High School. We went over there on the track. And that was my sophomore year. Roger was a freshman. Bill Reese was a junior. We came from the baseball team. And we had Jim Platts, who was John's older brother. We were the fastest kids in school. So we went to the meet, and Elkhorn won their first meet. We set a bunch of records, and then they let us do two sports in the spring: football and basketball. Or excuse me, baseball and what am I doing? Baseball and track and field.
That's amazing.
And that's what it took off. That year was 1956. I was a sophomore, and Roger was I was a junior. Roger was a sophomore. Bill Reese on the team was a junior as well, and Bill Ward was the other guy. And we went to the state track meet, and we took second, tied for second in the 4x220 relay. It was yards then. We had no idea where we were because we hadn't run any big meets. We just knew that we were pretty good amongst the schools around there, Delavan and Whitewater and so forth. But we had not been in a big meet yet. We got up there and it was astounding. We ran in Camp Randall. There was a track at Camp Randall then. Did you know that?
Inside?
They tore up the track at the end of my senior year. To enlarge the stadium, they built down and tore out the track to do that.
So, Richard, is the book about that season, or is it about the I mean,
the book the book covers a number of seasons, but that's where I started from.
Okay, so give us a little bit more.
Pardon?
Give us a little bit more on the book. I'm curious about Thin-Clads and like what's in the book.
Well, the name Thin-Clads it was an old-fashioned name for track runners. They wore thin clothes, and the book starts out talking about Elkhorn, growing up in Elkhorn, the community there, and then I go into going through the different grades when I was in elementary school, then into high school. And I focus on that first season, would be the 1955-1956 school year. But the book gets into a lot of things besides the sports. sports is the main part of it, but I get into the community a lot. Notice the title on the book says, a small town 1950s track team and then some. It's the then some part that deals with the culture and the community around Elkhorn, and then also in our country. You know, I had one of my classmates who was a woman who said to me, I really liked the book, and the best part was the then some, because that's where you talked about everything else in there, about things going on in our community. And I had one chapter titled Girls. I just, you know, at that time, girls didn't participate in sports. You know, it was a shame that they didn't participate until the early 1970s, as you all know, when that Equal Opportunity Act came in at the federal level, and then women could play in sports at that point. But until then, the girls had nothing going on. You see.
Yeah, that's
So when you say then some, what are some other then sums that the book covers? I'm just curious. Keep going with the then some if that was the most intriguing part of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some chapters here on. I talk about scholar athletes, no ordinary town. I talk about Elkhorn. I walk through Elkhorn. What made Elkhorn kind of a special? Girls. Corrupting affluence, state champions, life after high school, distorted priorities, lost innocence, team play, and several other chapters.
Do you talk at all about the makeup of the town at that point, and kind of like what kids did in town? Or
I talk about Elkhorn during the 30s and 40s, and that's the chapter "No Ordinary Town," about what made it an interesting place to grow up in, and what was fascinating about Elkhorn. Have you read the book?
I have not read the book, but where can people get the book? It's still out there, right?
Yeah,
on Amazon.
Yeah, it's there. It's in the library. I think they have some copies at the county information center. You know,
I think Matheson Memorial has some copies as well. Copies. I saw that you could purchase it on Amazon as well.
You can purchase it on Amazon.
We need to get those in our libraries, John.
It's at the library, but I think they have copies also at the information center. You know where that is, just down from
the chamber. There is some books down at the chamber as well.
But
it looks like John Henderson who's a fellow Rotarian. He read the book. Said a great history for those of us that grew up in Elkhorn.
Yeah, well,
so you get a little plug, 5 stars there, Richard.
Yeah. Well, you newcomers, as I joke sometimes, you think that everything started in 1970 at Elkhorn. But there was a life before that. 30s, 40s, and 50s that I find a lot of folks don't know about, and I think that's why they like the book. What was interesting for them. But I also have a chapter on the Southern Lakes, and I go through the cities, the towns that were in the Southern Lakes Conference, and talk about each town and what made them kind of special. You know, Delavan, Whitewater, Lake Geneva, and so forth, Burlington, Beaumont, and it's a little bit of the history of those towns.
Sounds like a must read.
Pardon?
It sounds like a must read. We should give it to every new coach who gets hired. I'm going to tell Coach Handel to give them a little bit of the history.
Absolutely. They should read that because they'll know where they came from. You know, we all got to where we are on the backs of those who came before us.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason Elkhorn High School is what it is today is because those classes and teams that came before you guys.
Well, we're getting down to that 15-minute mark, and I don't want to. I know we have you on 2 more times, and I don't want to steal the next 2 opportunities. We're going to do something a little different here, John. We're not going to do thank yous or shout outs. Are you ready?
I think so. I don't know what's coming here.
I'm finally surprising you.
I know. All right.
All right. So we're gonna go right around the table here. Right around the Noon Whistle. And I want you to say your favorite teacher of all time and why.
All right. So you know that I wasn't an Elkhorn grad, right?
That doesn't matter. Well, either am I. But we're just gonna talk about our favorite teacher. So we'll start with Richard. Who was your favorite teacher and why?
I wrote about them in the book when I talked about
that's perfect.
In class, and what turned me into a student. And
Who was your favorite?
My favorite was a guy named Sam Kaplan, who was also the baseball. He was a very rigorous teacher. I mean, this guy, you didn't fool around in his class. Every moment was time on task with students. He was no nonsense with Sam. And he was a stylish dressed guy, and he was a baseball coach as well. Great. But he was the one who turned me around early on my freshman year when he assigned us, they had assignments for us to go, and I went to the library to get a book. I got the easiest book I could get. Came back and gave it to Mr. Kaplan. And he said, "You can do better than that." Took me back and gave me a book to read. And I spent hours and hours reading that book and writing a report on it because I didn't want to disappoint the guy. The other teacher was Ruth Bushman, our Latin teacher. And she taught me Latin, opened my eyes to the English language, interestingly enough, because I had to work hard at the subject. Yeah. She was a rigorous teacher, and I learned.
We gave you one. You took two, Richard. So we're going to have to.
Yeah. Wait a minute. You guys want to talk too? The other one was Fred Suki, but he was our coach. I mean, coaches were important in our lives. Go ahead, guys.
All right, John, who is your favorite teacher? Because I'm up here at the Slate conference, and it's about teachers and getting better. And I just thought about it as some walked by, and there's somebody from Williams Bay up here.
How about that? Another Bulldog up there. Good.
So tell me, who's your favorite teacher?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't lead with my father, who was a social studies teacher, Mike Anzalone. But since Richard got two, that's my quick one. My second one is Bill Blakely, who was a coach and a teacher, and again held me accountable, reeled me in when I need reeling in, and taught me that if you want something, you got to go get it, and you can do it if you put the time and effort into it.
I'm going to give you one. You guys both went in high school. I have a favorite in high school, but I'm going to turn the clock back a little bit. As a Riverview little K-8 in Silver Lake, Wisconsin, Mary Jo Fleming, she always told me, she says, "Chris, you're just breathing to get a B. Maybe we can push you a little farther than that." And she pushed me, and similar to you, Richard, she made me write a little bit better, and she held me accountable and wanted to raise the bar for me as a student, and I'll never forget her for that. And who knew where time went, huh? Unbelievable. So, yeah. Richard, we thank you for joining us again, and I appreciate you guys being flexible enough for me to jump on from the Kalahari up here in the Wisconsin Dells, a busy place. Richard, we'll have you on. When is it? In a couple weeks?
2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, is the next one.
We're on in January again.
Okay. Well, for everybody who tuned in, make sure you reach out to another Elkhorn grad and bring them on so they can hear a little bit more of our local history. Thank you, Richard. And John, on that note, I think it's time to go back to work.
Thin Clads, buy the book, Amazon.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You're welcome. A little longer delay right here. I think it's ended. It's still going.
Well, we still got 2 minutes by my clock.
Yeah, well,
they don't want to stop. That's not going to
the stream won't end on my end.
Yeah, my daughter's calling me. She may have been able to tune in to it.